Wow, that was a very powerful introduction, and based on what you just saw, you probably can imagine what this show is going to be about today. This is Bowers on the Beat. For those of you just tuning in, I'm your host, Lamar Bowers, getting ready for another exciting episode of Bowers on the Beat. Now, we're not out on the streets today. Normally, as you know, we like to get out there and talk to people and interview and kind of selling things down today. And in respects of this month, October being Domestic Violence Month, we got a lot of things we need to talk about. What you can look forward to today, I have a great guest today who is also a host who hosts the show on here. I'll let him tell you a little bit more about that and himself as well. And he's going to help us deal with this dialogue on domestic violence. Wow. It's no secret that men and women and men experience domestic violence across this country we call the United States of America. But we want to delve into some of the ins and the outs of what's going on. We want to talk about the problem. We want to talk about the outcomes. And we want to talk about some solutions today. That's where we want to go with this particular Bowers on the Beat episode. So if you tuned in, sit back, relax. You might want to get a pen and some paper out because we're going to be throwing some information out there at you throughout this broadcast. Some statistics that come to my mind as I began to get ready for this show that really was alarming to me, and you may find it the same way. It is the CDC who put these statistics out there. They say that 4.8 million women see intimate partner-related abuse. That's intimate partner. That's somebody they know, that's somebody they've been with, they're comfortable with. That is serious. But not only that, 2.9 million men see the same. We're going to talk about the male part as well. There's always been a lot of talk about abuse against women, but there is a slight rise over the last decade or so in incidences of men being abused by women. We want to talk about that as well. And also, I wonder how many men out there have been through abusive relationships and they have not reported it. That's another issue we want to talk about today, and my guest is going to help me out with this. I'm excited. I can't wait to get this ball rolling. We're going to have a great time on Bowers on the Beat, and as you can see, my guest is here, host of Plugged In.
Yes, sir.
I'm delighted to have him.
I'm glad to be here, sir.
You bless me, man.
Hey, you bless me, and I bless you back.
Host of Plugged In, Lewis Johnson. How are you, man?
I'm doing great, sir. I think this is a very, very serious conversation that we need to have. Being Domestic Violence Month, we want to really just dive into some conversation. That's right. And hopefully we can help some people out.
That's right. So we're going to do just that. And, for those of you who don't know, Plugged In is an exciting show.
It is. It is an exciting show. We have had an excellent time with each segment that we've had. We've had segments on relationships. We just did another show today as it relates to with a real man. Please stand up.
Stand up.
We have an absence of the man in the home, in the marriage, in our society as a whole. And so we looked at it from various perspectives today. That show airs every Monday night on this very channel at 11 o'clock p.m. And so we're excited about what's happening in the show. And we're going to bring some more people to the show, have some more conversations, and we pray that the impact will be felt around the city.
I'm sure it is because you're serious about what you do. And I've been a guest on your show.
Yes, you have. Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
I had a great time and we talked about some relationships with
We've talked about relationships between a man and a woman and some things that are beneficial to that relationship, whether married or dating.
Yeah.
And so I found that people are really, really getting some great nuggets of revelations and understanding.
Those precious nuggets.
And you can always go on YouTube and check us out. Just look up Plugged In, PLUGGED.IN on YouTube as well. So
very exciting. So thank you again for being a guest on Bowers on the Beat. This is actually our first show with Karamelentertainment. So I'm excited about today. It's our first inaugural show. We just finished a live series here on Comcast, and now we're rolling with that, and I'm excited about that. And you're my first guest.
Oh, well, I am ecstatic. I am honored.
Man, the Lord truly does work things out
in mysterious ways.
Yes. So we're talking about this issue of domestic violence, and the statistics are out there. They're staggering. Also, something else that I wanted to throw out is 1 in 6 women and 1 in 33 men experience an attempted or completed rape. 1 in 6 women. Wow. So if you were to line up 6 women, out of those 6, one of them would have either been through an attempted rape or an accomplished rape, a completed rape, so to speak.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
You.
That's right.
You know, so you're running into these women at Walmart, at the grocery store, in your everyday affairs. No matter where you go, you might not know it.
That's right.
There's somebody who has gone through a domestic issue in their relationship, and it's a really sad commentary.
It is. It is.
These things are happening in our world today, but it's something that we need to address, and it's something that we need to correct.
Absolutely.
Because there are people dying every day at the hands of domestic relationships. There are people that are taking their kids and leaving just for their own safety.
I believe I saw a statistic today online that said that every 9 seconds, a woman is a victim of sexual abuse.
It's horrible.
And they did sort of the same thing that you just did. They counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And the results are in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9. The results are in.
Every 9 seconds.
Every 9 seconds. So it's staggering what's going on. So we really need to deal with this issue in our culture today.
It's a very,
it is a very serious issue in our culture today, and we're going to talk about that. How we can deal with some of those dynamics in domestic violence relationships. We need to talk about that as well. So, but now I mentioned that the men. I see 1 in 33% men.
Okay.
Truthfully, I would not be surprised that realistically it's 1 in 20.
Okay.
Or maybe even 1 in 15 or whatever.
1 in 10.
1 in 10. Because there's this stigma among men that if we experience domestic violence, you soft if you report it, you're a punk, you know, a woman can't rape you and blah, 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 you're stronger than her. But what people have to remember, if y'all were able to catch the opening clip, you would have seen a very profound statement about what domestic violence really is. The intimidation. Intimidation, that's a key word, intimidation. Now, this is not just indicative of verbal or sexual or physical or emotional, but really a compilation of all of them.
Right.
In one bag.
Interesting.
And whether us men like to talk about it or not.
Maybe not.
But the reality is when we go through domestic disputes and we are not the aggressor, we may not physically have the disadvantage, but we emotionally are on equal plane. Do you think that's true?
I think that's definitely true. And I think as men, there's an ego that's already in place that we have to deal with from a testosterone level, and that's just a basic hormone of a man. A man does not want to be viewed by his peers as a wimp or a man that is less than a man. So what we'll do is we'll go and hide. We won't talk about it. We won't go out and have a good time with our friends because we're afraid that it might come up. And so we develop a complex that allows us to get through it, really when we shouldn't be dealing with it, but allows us to get through it and allows us to deal with it. We kind of hide behind a wall and just put up a facade just to maybe keep the peace in the house for the sake of the kids or whatever that reason might be. Because it's really hard for some people to get out of a relationship. When you've got 15, 20, 25 years with a person, it's really hard to just pack up and walk away regardless of whether it's abusive or not. Because you've got bills together, you've got a house, you've got cars together. There are some good times in your relationship, but then when those bad times come up, they're really bad. And so we have to have those conversations about that.
You know, it's funny we're going into this direction with this conversation, man. I was just at the jail yesterday doing a workshop, and I had in front of me about 40 men incarcerated and trying to work through some issues, and hopefully most of them soon to be reintegrated back into society. And we talked about relationships.
Wow.
Man, I tell you, and one guy, and I must admit, I had to shut some of the other guys down a little bit because what they were doing to this one guy is the reason why a lot of guys won't talk. They were clowning him pretty good.
Wow.
Because the brother got to talking about how his woman, little guy, I mean, it was a little bit funny at the moment. But I had to be a professional and help other people to see that, even though he may not be articulating this in a way that says he's hurting, really what he's saying is, this hurts me when my woman dominates me.
Wow.
So he's got she's not really beating on him. But she's very domineering and very, put down-ish. I guess that's a new word.
Very aggressive. Yeah. Very aggressive.
So, she's like that. And the brother was telling his story. He asked me what should he do. And I think one of the guys on the unit basically said, stop letting her play you. Because you're getting played. That sounds good, but it's not that simple for this guy.
It's not that simple.
You mentioned about how you kind of want to stay in that relationship and try to work things out. I think this guy, he said he'd been in it for 17 years.
Wow.
And I think that's where he is right now. He's just trying to work it out. So the point is, when the other inmate said, stop letting her play you, he was sort of right, but I don't know if I would have said it that way.
You kind of go into a shell
right.
Because you don't want to be embarrassed by the reality of what you're going through.
Sure.
And that's due to a changing of the guard.
Yeah.
You have to look at even the younger females that are out here today, 17, 18, 19 years old, are trying to call shots, and they are chasing the guys. Whereas back in the day, 20 years ago, it was the guys that went and did the chasing of the female. And so because of the changing of the guard, you have a whole various amounts of things. You have the lesbian community who've come out and have decided what they want to do. You have females, even if they are straight, going after the men. And so that brings up another variety of conversation now. Why does the female feel as though she needs to be the aggressor in the relationship? And so you have men playing the role of the woman and the woman playing the role of the man.
You just took this to a whole new level. And I caught that. That was good. That was deep. So we're again, to me, what I'm hearing in that commentary just now is that the culture is shifting such.
Yes.
The changing of the guard. The changing of the guard is sort of fostering this new uprise or dynamic increase in relationships where we can no longer just say that domestic violence is just isolated to the female being the victim.
Right.
But now we know that there's been a serious increase in male victims.
Why is that? Because the females are becoming more and more aggressive.
Right.
In their approach to relationships.
If I'm doing workshops with youth, when I ask questions about domestic violence, I don't necessarily use those terms. I will say, is it okay to hit the other person? Something like that. And typically, I would say maybe 80% of the girls who admit, or 90% of the girls who admit to hitting their partner, say that they deserved it. And it's almost like, I'm a girl, I can hit you,
but you can't hit me back.
But you better not put your hands on me. And these are like 12 and 13-year-old kids.
But see, that's because we're not teaching those young girls how to conduct themselves.
Okay.
Now, is it because of retaliation, or is it because they just straight,
the locker chilling with his boy, and she called him twice and he didn't answer. Bam, boy, you better answer me when I call you.
But see, I think that this generation now resorts to violence a lot more now than when we used to.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different reasons why. Look at the movies that are out. Look at the music that's out. Look at the type of social media that's out. And so when you have all of these different variables in the life of a teen, they have access to so many different things.
Sure.
That would cause the personality to become and more embracing to the things that the world has to offer. And so they become like the movie. They become like the video. They become like the things that they're seeing on TV. You have things that are on TV in prime time that should not be on TV. So the media has a big part. Oh yeah, they're telling the young people how to conduct themselves. When you watch, you can't even watch the Disney Channel because there are some shows on the Disney Channel that may not be appropriate for 7 and 8, 9, 10-year-old kids.
Yeah, recently we did a short skit. I say we, there's an organization involved with some of the work that I do, and we did a short skit called Signs and Wonders. And I was asked to do this skit because in honor of this month and in response to a a series of workshops that had been done in honor of this month on domestic violence, healthy dating skills, and so on and so forth. And so I put together this thing called Signs and Wonders. And I caught a little bit of, I don't want to say flack, because I think people, once they really read the script and figured out where it was going, they said, you know, but it wasn't receptive to the point where let me just go back. The script was written based on a male being the victim.
Okay.
Let me go back to that.
Okay.
That's what it was all about. And this was a young boy in high school. Mm-hmm. And this young boy met this girl, and she's fine. She bad. She got everything that he ever wanted. All the intangibles. Or the tangibles. The touchables. Oh, I didn't say that. But that's what was in the script. Okay? Right. All right. So he falls in love with all that stuff, which, you know, I put that in there because that is a factor. There's a big factor in a lot of the guy's decision making.
The physical aspect of the woman. Mm-hmm. You know, what he can see and feel really gets him excited. So he overlooked a lot of the red flags. Okay. Interesting.
And in the skit, you could see all the red flags coming out. You know, her getting more and more controlling. And so when I first put this out there, people were like, you know, I'm like, but y'all don't know how real this is.
This is real. We got to be able to speak to these type of things.
Yeah.
Because if we see those white flags and we see those red flags and we choose to ignore them, then we're allowing those things to exist.
Yeah.
If we don't nip those things in the bud and have a conversation about them, then that female will think that it's okay to talk to me that way.
Yeah.
It starts out with just talking down to him. Next thing you know, she's throwing things at him. Next thing you know, she's going upside his head. Next thing you know, she's pulling out a knife. And so there is a progression, a buildup. If you had nipped this in the bud 3 or 4 years ago, when she first started talking out of the way to you, then these things might not exist today.
Exactly.
And so as the man, you've got to be able to stand up and say, you know what, this is not acceptable in this relationship, but I'm not going to stand for this. You can either stop or I'm going to take the door and I'm going to leave.
That's absolutely right, man. So that there is that buildup, and we have to learn speaking, you know, man to man, you know, and other men out there watching, you know, we have to learn to not use our sexual parts as a means of validation, but use critical thinking, common sense. You know, it's okay for the lady to look like a model, but she can't have a decent conversation. You know, she doesn't have a good relationship with her mom or her parents, and you know, it's like, okay, you know, what are the red flags? That's the one that's at the restaurant returning the food back every time she get it. She got to go.
Always something wrong.
But she bad.
You know, she's always going to pick out the negative thing. You know,
it's a speck on the spoon.
Speck on the spoon. This plate is dirty. My napkin wasn't in the right place. My cup is not. You know what? You know, when are you going to be satisfied? They're never satisfied.
But that is a red flag?
It's a red flag. It's going to be hard for you to please this woman because she's always got something. She's got an issue with something. There's always an issue. Why you didn't cut the grass?
Can I ask you something?
Why you didn't wash the dishes? Why you didn't clean the bathroom?
You ever dated a woman like that?
Yes. I'm sorry.
Yes, I have. Like that?
Yes, I have.
Okay, I have too.
Yes, I have.
I have.
But you know what? It does something to the psyche of a man to have to always contend with a woman who always finds something that's wrong.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. And sooner or later, it's going to come to a head.
Yeah, and you have to be realistic about that in that situation. And ladies, this applies to you. If you got that man you know, you can't get a word out, and he's just dominating you. It's his first date. That's a red flag. That's a red flag. You need to be paying attention to that.
Pay attention to that. You're in a place where you're trying to get to know each other.
Yeah.
You're not trying to domineer the conversation.
But see, we're nice. A woman will get up and leave your butt at the table. We're all nice and stuff. Sir, I'm sorry. I didn't. She's just, you know, trying to speak for somebody we just met, really.
Right.
Because she bad.
But if she walks up and leaves you at the restaurant by yourself, let her go.
Yeah.
You know, you better off letting her go now than to get down the road.
Yeah.
And you got some major problems. And now you got kids. Now you got this. Now you got that. And you're married. And it's not as easy to walk away from.
Actually, what I'm thinking about, that couple that's, you know, the guy that's being obnoxious, and the woman is like, I ain't putting up with this. Take me home now. Take me home now. I'll be getting a cab. She gonna get home.
She's gonna get home. If you don't take her home, somebody
gonna take her. But we be at the table still sitting there. I'm sorry. Sir, this is not. I don't know what to do. But she's just, come on now.
Yeah. You just have to stop it.
Either way, you got to be able to recognize those signs and make the appropriate decision.
You have to. You have to see the signs and react.
Yeah.
A lot of what we don't do is we don't react the right way.
Yeah. So we're actually now, in a few minutes, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, you and I are going to get into a visual display.
Okay.
We're going to have a little bit of fun, but it's going to be educational as well. A visual display, and we are going to show you step by step what I think that you could do to prevent from being in a situation like this. Because here's what I'm saying. I think the most important prevention method here is to get ahead of the curve. To, like what we just talked about, recognize the signs and not get caught up in the wonders. That's what that skit was about. Don't get caught up in the wonders. Recognize the signs, make the right decision. So we're gonna do that, and we'll talk about maybe some solutions to the problem that's out there right now. So if we could, I want to get there's a domestic violence clip that we just played at the beginning. No, we're gonna play that again. Okay, we're gonna go to break. We'll see you guys in just a few seconds. On the other side, we'll get into some examples on what you can do to prevent. We gotta talk about that. Okay, so as you can see, we are no longer sitting in our seats.
All right,
All right, so with the first segment of today's show, we talked a lot about domestic violence. We gave you a little bit of statistics. Talked a little bit about the man's point of view and so on and so on. We did that not to negate the women, because obviously the women experience domestic violence at a much higher rate than we do, and we are often the aggressors. Let's just clarify that. But we do need to kind of give a holistic picture of this whole discussion.
Okay.
That domestic violence does extend out to men as well.
Okay.
As well as women. And here's the thing, men and women, what we need to do, we need to think about ways that we can prevent this.
Okay.
And I say the number one prevention is to develop some healthy relationship skills.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And so some of the listening audience, viewing audience out there may be familiar with this model that I have here. It is called the relationship attachment model.
Wow.
And you see the acronym there is RAM. Relationship attachment model.
Okay.
Now, when I do my workshops, I use this model quite often with youth and adults, and it's a great tool. So first, without further ado, let me explain what you're seeing. We have 5 domains right here. The first domain is no. All right, that's pretty self-explanatory. You want to get to know the person. What are you getting to know? You want to get to know the family background. Somebody said, why do you want to get to know the family background? It tells you a lot about.
Tells you a lot. Yeah.
The way your current partner might handle disagreements, whether they're affectionate. Some people come from very affectionate families.
Very true.
Then some people don't want to look at each other.
That's true.
And you got your partner that's like, well, how come I don't get no affection? If you go to Thanksgiving, you'll see why. Okay.
You'll see why.
So we're going to move forward. So you know somebody like that, right? I do too. So now we have trust. Okay. Let me deal with trust and rely together, because a lot of people get confused with trust and rely. Trust is more of a thought about a person. For those of you who like to take notes, please feel free to do so. Trust is more about the thought of a person, your thought processing of that person. I can trust them, and it's also more emotional. Whereas rely is more about dependence. That means, brother, if I say to you, hey, go up to 7-Eleven for me real quick and get me a Slurpee and bring me back my change. I'm relying on you for several things. One is going to 7-Eleven and getting my daggone Slurpee.
You will trust that I'm going to 7-Eleven.
Right. But the trust is what made me ask you to do it.
Okay. But
that's the thought.
The reliance.
The reliance is you actually coming back with my Slurpee.
Okay.
And bringing me my change back. Don't forget that part.
Okay.
Don't get my change. You gotta have my change.
Gotta have your change.
All right. So now we have commitment. Okay. We have commitment right here. Kind of speaks for itself.
Commitment speaks for itself.
What is the ultimate form of commitment?
Interesting.
It's marriage.
It's marriage.
It's marriage all day. That is the ultimate form of commitment. Okay? That is usually what you do before you get to this last one. Now, it says touch on the chart, but Brother Lewis, that's really not what it means.
It's really not what it means.
If you had to guess what it means, what do you think
I would
that means?
say it would be a level of intimacy involved in the relationship.
A pretty high level of intimacy? Well, actually, it does mean touch.
It means physical touch to some degree.
To some degree.
Now, the higher that goes up, the more touching that's going on.
When we talk to kids, sometimes we have to word things a certain way. We're talking about sex as well. Okay. This is also representative of sex. Okay. What I call milk and cookies. You know that.
The milk and cookies. I understand.
Milk and cookies.
The milk and the cookies.
That's right. Milk is like the before stuff, and the cookies is the.
There you go.
Okay. So we have no trust, rely, commit, and touch. All right. So what we do with this model is and what makes it so effective is we're able to demonstrate through this model what a relationship looks like today, what it can look like, and what it should look like. Today, we're only going to mess with two of those. We're only going to mess with what it looks like today. And then I'll show what it should look like, and we'll talk about that.
Okay.
So based on your understanding, this is where I need your help.
Okay.
If you would be so kind to show us what you think relationships look like today.
Relationships look like today as it relates to these various things.
And you can also demonstrate. You can move this.
I can demonstrate. I'm going to move these things up and down. Okay.
Yeah, you can do that.
So if I was starting out with the know or the knowledge, I want to say maybe we don't know our partner as well as we should.
Okay.
So I'm going to put that right there.
Okay.
I think if you want to start from this side, that the touch factor has taken on a much greater place in today's society.
You going up, man.
I'm going up.
You going up
because
where's that music from the Price Right?
I think that touch factor is critical. And I think some people say, well, I want to try out the milk and cookies before I get married, or I want to test the waters before I get married. And just in a basic relationship conversation, the touch factor is way up. We starting to hold hands, we hugging, there's some intimacy being shared. Maybe it shouldn't be that high soon, but that's where I believe.
That's what you're saying society is indicative of.
I believe society is putting a lot on touch. Look at the things that are on TV. Look at the movies. Look at the things that are being given to kids at a young age when they really shouldn't be having those conversations yet. So I think that touch may be a little too high on the chart where it should be, a little bit further down. Yes, it's okay. It's okay to hold hands, to build a relationship, hug, build, after you're married, then that's the time that you should be going off the charts.
Sure. So, but you're saying that touch, so we're engaging in a sexual act is what you're saying.
Right now, I believe that society has dictated that it's okay to be in a heavy, intimate relationship, so much so that it's off the charts.
Off the charts. So that's what we're looking at there. So what else you got? You got three more.
I feel that the level of commitment today may not be as high as it should be.
Okay.
It's pretty low because you have a lot of cheating going on. So a lot of things. People aren't faithful to marriages. They're talking to 2 or 3 people at one time. Where is your level of commitment?
Wow.
When it comes down to relying on a person, I think that there's a lot of independent women out here that may not want to put their total reliance in a man. So you have a low reliance level because you might hurt me if I rely on you too much.
Okay.
So you want to be able to, they're safeguarding their true heart and true feelings, not putting all of their apples in one basket. And then when you look at the trust factor, I've heard people say, well, I don't trust nobody, whether I'm married to him or not.
Yeah.
So, maybe that's not as high on the chart as it should be as well.
Interesting. So, okay, honestly, if you could just back up just a little bit. Okay, what I'm seeing here, I hate to use this terminology, but this is almost like a jump-off situation.
Wow.
You have here, obviously, touches off the charts. You have gave up the milk and cookies. You barely know the person. You somewhat trust them, but also with trust is a little bit tricky on this chart as well, because one might be able to say that if touch is so high up, then maybe you've trusted that person sort of at a higher level.
But should you be?
Yeah.
Because even when you're looking at, as far as the intimate conversation, you have to look at having protected intimacy, which really shouldn't be happening until later on in the relationship anyway. So if you really don't know this person well, you don't really trust this person, then why is the touch factor all the way up here, but you don't know what their background is? You don't know what they're working with. You don't know what they coming to the table with. They can have a disease of some sort, and you got touch all the way up here when you really don't even know them yet.
And meanwhile, the red flags that we talked about earlier have presented themselves.
Loud and clear.
And yet you have still engaged in sexual activity with this person. So we're talking about using this relationship attachment model, ways that you, the viewing audience, can prevent being in a domestic violence situation. Now, we've just given you an example through Brother Lewis here, Johnson. We've just given you an example of what relationships tend to look like today. You have very little knowledge of the person. You trust them a little bit more than rely. And, we may even be able to move this up just a bit or whatever. There's room for movement because, again, you got touch up so high. So that person say, hey, I'm willing to give this person my body, okay? And reliance here, based on your example, we say, hey, we got a lot of independent sisters out there, and brothers too, and may not be in that relationship to depend on that person, okay? And then you have a very modest level of commitment in that relationship. And of course, touch is off the charts. It speaks for itself. Speaks for itself. So we're dealing with that. And this is the model that festers and allows domestic violence relationships to exist.
Wow. And it's so unfortunate because theoretically, when you're looking at it from a relationship standpoint, every one of these indicators should be on equal playing field. It should be balanced.
That's right.
There should be a balanced relationship going on where all of these things are somewhere around the same level.
Wow.
You can't have too much of nothing.
Right.
Because even if you know somebody very well, but your intimacy level is down here, there's still a disconnect.
Yeah.
So it should be balanced to some degree.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that now we're getting into what this chart should look like. Now we get into what this chart should look like. All right, this is what it should look like. And you're right. I mean, you can go as high as every level. Obviously, if you go up with commitment here and touch is up here. Now, let me say, this is a married situation.
Married situation.
You have vetted your partner. What do we mean by vetting? Of course, we mean do your research. You have done your research on your partner. Mm-hmm. You know their characteristics. You know that they are tender and they are affectionate. You know that they will open the door for you. You know that they will say nice things to you, sweet nothings, etc. You know these things, okay? So you know their family background. You know their middle name. You know their favorite food.
Birthday, you know all that stuff.
So I had to throw that in there for some folks.
Favorite food.
You'd be surprised how many people will go off the charts. Will go off the charts with this and can't tell you the middle name of the person they just went off the charts with.
Can't tell your favorite color.
Nothing.
You can't tell what they like to eat. You don't know what they don't like, what they're allergic to. You married someone and you don't know these things?
What about genetics? Some of you say, well, why do you want to know all this stuff? If you are dating someone, it should be, I like your phrase, it should be for the purpose of
marriage.
Marriage.
A dating experience is not for you to sow your royal oats. No. It is an opportunity to get to know someone with the purpose in mind that eventually I would like to be married. Now, if you're early on in the game and you see some deal breakers and some white flags that you know this ain't gonna work, then you need to go ahead and end that as early as possible because this is not what you want in a marriage situation.
That's right. That's right. So, but we say sow royal oats. A lot of people think that that's the thing to do, test drive the car. You're not sowing you're wasting your oats.
Wow.
You're wasting them.
Well, here's a question that we need to pose to the people. If you wanted to buy a suit, would you go to Macy's or would you go to the thrift store? If you had a choice and you wanted to buy a suit from a nice department store like Macy's or Dillard's, or either get a tailor-made or to go to the flea market or the Goodwill, which place would you rather go to get the suit? Most people would go to get a new suit. They don't want the stuff that's been used and been passed down throughout. I want to get something that's more new, something that's coming right off the manufacturer's floor.
That's good.
But you settle for flea market love when you should be going to get the department store love.
Wow. Some of y'all got some people on layaway, too, but that's another show. We got him on layaway. We got him on layaway. I pick him up in 6 months.
Wow.
Oh boy, I tell you, that's real though. That's real talk. That's what it is. So many dynamics, we don't have enough time to deal with all of them. But this is what it should look like. Let's bring that back down. Let me give you an example of a relationship. Yes, it's a little crooked there. Thank you. An example of a relationship that didn't work out, but the person was able to vet the person properly, and they didn't know. No children came out of the situation. The relationship dissolved safely.
Okay.
It dissolved safely. There was no domestic violence. That would look like this. Okay? That would look like this. Okay? What do you see there?
I see a almost like some steps.
That's right.
You know, each level takes me a little bit higher, but at the top of the steps, I have knowing this person. I know them more than I've been intimate with them. Yeah. And I think that that's a critical component.
I wonder how many women, if they really got to know the person that they were, and this is not to be offensive to anybody who suffered domestic violence.
Of course not.
Or rape or anything like that. We read statistics earlier that most of the incidences take place at the hands of someone you know. And someone you've been intimate with. I wonder what would have happened if you would have really vetted that person out and really took your time to get to know them.
Take some time.
It takes time.
Takes time.
And just another quick tip, research says it takes 3 to 6 months to truly get out of that honeymoon period.
Wow, and those hormones and everything's firing all
right.
And they start to die down, as we discussed a little bit earlier on another show.
That's right.
What's there to hold the relationship together?
Absolutely.
What's the compatibility model of your relationship?
Yeah.
Can we have a conversation? Can we travel together? Do we like some of the same things? This is critical in your love relationship.
That's exactly right. So you guys can see how this model can be very effective.
Very effective.
And now it's just a model. You have to practice it. And what we want you to do is to be able to practice what we're trying to teach you today. And so we're talking about domestic violence. We have here host of Plugged In,
yes.
Brother Lewis Johnson.
Yes.
And he's been so kind to help us out today to move this model up and down and show you the various relationship dynamics based on this particular relationship attachment model. So I hope you guys really enjoyed that. Don't you go anywhere, because on the other side, we've got more discussion coming, and we can also take some of your phone calls on the other side as well. But we're going to play a domestic violence clip for you guys. For those of you who missed the opening of this show, pay attention to this clip and definitely pay attention to the definition of domestic violence. We will be right back. Okay, we're back live. This is Bowers on the Beat. I'm your host, Lamar Bowers, and we just finished up a segment giving you the relationship attachment model. Again, I believe that if we could really learn how to engage in relationships the proper way, then we can prevent a lot of the domestic violence outcomes that we're seeing in our society today. That's something that we need to address significantly, and it starts young. A lot of kids out there that are getting some bad examples. I read one statistic that said that, what is the greatest indicator for future domestic violence relationships is when children see other parents and so on and so forth committing acts against the other parent. And so we have here back with us again, this is Lewis Johnson.
Yes, sir.
He is our guest for today on Bowers on the Beat.
Yes, sir.
Also the host of Plugged In, for those of y'all who don't know.
Yes, sir.
A hot show on here on Comcast. I love watching it, man, and I'm really blessed to have you today. And thank you for helping me with that example just now.
It was a great example.
Yes.
And generated some great conversation. I think people really need to have some candid and open discussions as it relates to their relationships.
Absolutely. So what I want to do now is just kind of review sort of what we learned from that.
Okay.
And we can also take some calls as well. I believe it's 804-915-5202 for those of you who want to call us up at this point. We will open up the phone lines. That's 804-915-5202, and you can call us up on the hotline. So for a lot of people maybe just tuning in and getting a chance to check us out live here. And so what did you take away from that experience just now?
I took away from that experience that we have to do a better job of doing more background work up front.
Yeah.
Whenever you're going into a dating situation and you're getting to know someone, you want to find out what kind of home did they come from. You want to find out, okay, what is their work ethic like? You want to find out have they been in a relationship or have they been married before. That all plays a part in your final decision whether you want to be with this person for the rest of your life. Because when you're making a decision coming into the constitution and institution of marriage, this is a lifetime situation, till death do us part. And so even though there are allowances for divorce, we should never have that as the first option of a relationship. So we learned a lot today about the model of really just getting to know someone, saving the milk and cookies for later. And you can pretty much, as a man, you can pretty much physically size a woman and I know this is going to be a blessed relationship as a relation to milk and cookies, so we can wait on that.
Right.
Then we get to know you, find out where your mind is. And I think as men, we kind of put the physical aspect, we put the cart before the horse. We don't find out how this woman really thinks,
definitely true.
How she processes information. Is she good with money? Even something as simple as, can she domestically help in a house? Can she clean? Does she know how to prepare a meal? She doesn't have to go in there and cook, a 4-course meal every night, but does she know how to hold it down? Does she know her way around the kitchen? How is she toward children? So these are various things that we need to ask.
And it just amazes me how often we just overlook that stuff.
Overlook things. And then you get married and then you get microwave meals.
Yeah.
You trying to figure out,
honey, how come I keep getting Hot Pockets?
You got them when you were there.
What did you think she
you just got lean cuisine.
But somebody out there said, well, no, my honey flipped the script on me.
That's a whole other show. That's a whole other show.
But for the most part, but you know what, though? I do believe this, though.
Okay.
Talking about those red flags and the signs. At some point in time, your partner shows you who they really are.
The real deal.
You just got jaded by some type of stimulus, whether it's the thighs, the breasts, the behind. Something got you, for ladies, maybe he's a great orator, he speaks well, he's well, strong in stature.
He thinks well.
He's prominent in the community and money and, and so something has, messed up your vision.
Right.
But I bet you all of us could look back.
We can come back
at some bad relationships we've had and say, man,
what was I doing? What was I thinking?
She did that early on, but the milk and cookies, man. Let's just be honest
Let's just be real about it.
But it's a huge mistake.
It's a real
because those situations never turn out to be a blessing, man.
Right.
In the immediate term.
Right. Now, if you look at it in those terms, take away the milk and cookies.
Yeah.
Do you still have a relationship?
Sure.
Because I think there are a lot of relationships built on intimacy when they should not be. Yes, that is a part of the relationship, but if you take that away, there should still be communication. There should still be a level of friendship. There should still be a level of partnership that only makes that better. So, there are relationships now, married relationships that are just built on intimacy. And so once that intimacy stops and there's an argument and there's a disagreement because some things are not being, you're not on the same page about some things, and that stops, then you don't have any more relationship because your relationship is only built on intimacy.
Wow. You're right. As you're talking, I'm thinking about something that I may take a plunge on.
Okay.
I debated whether I was going to do this or not.
Here we go.
All right, y'all get ready.
Here we go.
This has never been done on live television or my radio show, Real Talk, Real Change.
I'm getting fearful now.
It's going to be recorded.
I'm getting fearful now. Wait a minute now.
I would say out of 10, let's say 10 girlfriends I've ever had, 4 of them were abusive.
Wow. You talking about physically, verbally?
All of it. I've never shared that before.
And that took a great level of transparency for you to come out with.
Well, look, this is a show. This is Bowers on the Beat. My radio show is Real Talk, Real Change. We got to keep it real.
4 out of the 10.
4 out of the 10 were abusive.
And why is that?
How much do I owe you for this?
You brought it up. I'm just taking your lead. 4 out of the 10 relationships were abusive. Why is it that you kept being attracted to the same type of woman?
I would say from experience, and I'm okay with this because hey, I put myself out there.
Talk about it.
It's Bowers on the Beat. It's my show. I can do that.
It's your show.
I can do that.
It's your show.
I'm gonna pay for it later, though. I am. Oh boy, this is like a football injury. You right, but afterwards, boy, you need like 20 ice packs and soak in the ice tub.
Well, you deserve the right to be silent from this point. You gotta say nothing else. You gotta say nothing else.
Let me
it's
say
unfortunate,
this,
but it's true.
Let me say this. Let me say this to the viewing audience out there. I say it because I have learned from those mistakes. I have a beautiful wife now, 3 kids, lovely family. Okay, and my wife has never been that way to me, and I thank God for that. But the reality is, when I go back to my younger years, 3 of them I never seriously dated. I got out of the relationship.
Good.
Okay.
Good.
And I did that because I knew it wouldn't be a healthy situation for me. All right. But here's the thing: I never told anybody about that.
You kept it inside.
I kept it inside. Just like most of you men out there who have been through that. Truth be told, most of us have been with an aggressive female. I'm not going to ask you.
Don't ask me. Don't even bring me into this.
I'm not going to do it. But I did it.
But we all know someone.
But the bottom is,
we all know someone.
We have all, as men, we have been through this before. Whether we've been hit, whether we've been cursed at, whether we've been told that we don't look, we don't matter, we're a piece of trash. We have had aggressive women in our lives.
We've had aggressive women in our lives.
We call them the psycho woman.
But I think,
but she really is the aggressive woman that tends to be domineering, and so we don't talk about it, brother.
We don't talk about it.
Why is that? I feel bad right now.
Don't feel bad. I think that the truth makes us free. And I think there's a level of transparency that we have to have as we talk as brothers.
It's just not instant freedom. I'm gonna get it tonight sometime.
But don't worry about it. You shouldn't have to take any flack for what you had to go through.
Right.
And I think that the women now, because of the absence of the fathers in the home, have had to become more independent.
Absolutely.
And because they've got to be the one to cook, to clean, to do homework, to make sure the kids are okay, to just take on that whole total responsibility of raising the children. And so they become a little bit more independent. And so they know what they want right now, and they're real snappy, and it's like you almost get treated like one of the kids.
Yeah.
If you do not come into their program, more or less.
Listen to this, and we're about to close this show out, but you know what? All jokes aside, I really don't mind saying what I just said.
Okay, yeah.
I had thought about this before I got here, and I said, you know what? This show has got to be real to people.
Got to be real.
And I speak for a lot of men out there right there, because I talk to these men. I've done workshops at the Department of Social Services in Henrico County, and a lot of these brothers have the same story. Then when we get together, we'll talk about it amongst each other. But we definitely won't put it on the air. But some people we got to pioneer things.
We have to be able to have some conversations about it. It's like bringing the counseling session to somebody's home.
Right. So there are a lot of married men right now who are in domestic violence situations, and my heart goes out to them. They feel trapped. They feel like there's nothing they can do. That man in them said, "This is my role. I gotta love her anyway." There are a lot of things. This is a start of a series. So next week we'll come back and we'll piggyback on this show, and we'll do another domestic violence show, and we're gonna have some females in the studio next time. So it's out there. You guys can do whatever you want to do with it. I think we need to talk.
We need to talk about it.
I think we need to talk, and that's why I'm not afraid to stand out and pioneer this. Other guys need to come out and say it. You're going through the same thing I'm going through. You've been through it. And ladies, I'm sorry for what you're going through. It makes no sense to me why a man would put his hands on a woman.
Right. But if you're in that situation, you can get help.
You can get help.
Yeah, somebody who you can talk to, somebody you can get help.
YWCA is an excellent resource. The Virginia Department of Health is an excellent resource. Choose Respect is a huge program that's out there right now. Go to CDC, I believe it's .com.gov. Just type in Choose Respect, Yahoo, CDC, Virginia Department of Health. Man, I want to thank you so much for being my guest today.
My pleasure.
I really do appreciate you.
My pleasure.
We'll have to have you back again. I'll see you guys next week on Bowers on the Beat. I look forward to it. I may see you on the streets. Y'all know my motto. We're going to keep this thing rolling. Mwah. Love y'all. RealTalkRealChange.com. Check the website for show updates and any show ideas you might have. RealTalkRealChange.com. We'll see you next time.
Taking care of his kids, taking care of the household, and he's never around.